Welcome everybody to another CCE training video. Today we're going to be talking about bill writing, the different things that need to be included in a bill, and good strategies for sort of tackling the writing itself. My name is Tyler Dorr. I'm a CCE program director, and I'm joined today by three officers.
My name is Angelie Kimbu. I'm a junior at Hillwood High School. This is my third year doing YIG, and I am the speaker, the floor leader of the Blue House.
Hi, my name is Makaela Webb. I'm a senior at Hardin Valley Academy. This is my third year doing youth and government, and I will be the red speaker of the House at the volunteer conference.
Hi, my name is Matthew Shipley. I'm a senior at Pope John Paul II High School. This is my third year doing youth and government, and this year I will be the red lieutenant governor at the TriStar Conference.
So feel free to consult with CCE staff if you have any questions about your bill topic, and they will gladly help you out. Once you do begin to write, there are a couple of required parts that you must include within your bill. The first being the sponsors or the patrons. These are the names of everybody on your bill team. Team sizes will differ depending on which chamber you sign up for. The second is the title of your bill. The title should summarize the effects that you are including within the bill. For example, an act to increase the penalties for DUIs or an act to regulate pharmaceutical lobbying in Tennessee. Your title cannot be amended, so make sure you choose wisely. Remember, your title should always begin with the words "an act to" or "a resolution to." If your bill does more than what your title says or it exceeds your caption, it is omnibus and may run into issues for being unconstitutional. For this reason, it's best to make sure your title aligns with your intent and it is not too specific.
The third part of the bill is the body. This is the bulk of your bill. Everybody's bill looks a little bit different, but your body should include these things. First is the enacting clause, which says, "Be it enacted by the Tennessee YMCA Youth and Government." Next is the definitions. Section 1 should define any terms in your bill that need definitions. It's important to be very specific so that your regulations are not misapplied. For instance, you may need to define vehicles if you want your bill to apply to cars, but not boats or aircraft. Further sections of your bill should contain information about the bill. What is the law? Who will enforce it? What are the penalties for violation? Every bill must include a fiscal line item. This explains how much your bill will cost and where that money will come from. Lastly, your bill must include the repealing clause. This repeals any and all laws or parts of laws that conflict with your act. It also must include an effective date. This states when the act will go into effect.
So what sets a bill apart? Specificity. Be specific. What departments are involved? How much money will this resolution generate or cost? How many people will be involved? What is the enforcement mechanism? What are the penalties for noncompliance? Use the body of the bill to clarify or preempt questions, then you can use the entirety of debate to persuade people to get on board. Next, originality. Your bill does not have to be a completely new original idea, but try to incorporate some creativity. Even if the solution is not novel, can it be applied or funded in a novel way? Next is research. Have information about your solution. Why does it work? Is it based on a study? Has it been used in any other states? What has the effect been there? How will the measure/report improve outcomes? Next, be specific to Tennessee. How will the solution particularly impact Tennessee? What makes the solution a good fit for the state? And lastly, constitutionality. Does this bill violate Tennessee's constitution?
So whenever I'm reading through bills that are on the docket, I always make sure to try to find the intent. So it's always easier to do that if the sections are clear and concise and not always hidden with unnecessary language.
I think one area where this comes up is sometimes bills get really technical and very complicated. And instead of having like a long paragraph of writing, it's best if you can divide your bill into sections and subsections that kind of illuminate what you're saying and make it so that someone quickly scanning can find the section of your bill that addresses the part that they have a question about.
So after I have found a topic of interest and have done the necessary research, I write a somewhat rough draft of my bill on a Google Doc. I usually insert all source material that I use for research on the same doc for easy reference. Personally, I write my bill from what comes first, so I start with my title and go on to the sections as they come in order.
I always try to make sure to pick a topic that I can be excited about while I research. That often comes through as you start writing out your sections of your bill, and the more knowledge you always have on it, the more credible you look on the floor.
After you've written your bill, have someone look over it and make suggestions about how you can improve or tweak some things. Your school or delegation may do this in different ways, but this is important to making sure your bill is as best as it can be.
Just to quickly build on what Matthew just said, um, this can come up a lot when you finish your bill and read it over. You might realize that there's a definition you should still define, something that you used in the bill that you didn't necessarily know you were going to at the beginning, or that you didn't intend to use at the beginning, but now is in there and needs to be defined so that your bill can be interpreted clearly. So oftentimes you may want to end by just polishing that definition section. The other thing that'll happen is you may have a definition in there that you never actually use in the bill. So you should give it a quick scan before you submit it to make sure that every term that you define in the first section is used somewhere in the legislation.
In the bill, you should address who, what, how, and when. To put in another way, your bill should answer all the questions that future people will need to interpret that law. They will need to know what the rule is, when it takes effect, and which department it involves. For your speech, you would want to address why. Your speech should identify a problem, explain your bill, and try to persuade your audience that your bill is a good solution to the problem. You do not have a ton of time, so you only need to explain the basics of your bill.
I usually write down my entire speech beforehand, my introduction, and then I also, for my summation, I make sure to include time to address the issues that have been brought up in con-pro debate.
When I write my speeches for my bill, I tend to build the foundations of my research a little bit for the introduction. And as that minute goes on for the introduction, I also start to kind of preface pro-con debate, trying to address the con speeches that might come up and highlight the good about my bill.
I always try to include examples of ways my bill could actually affect the real world, and that way it's a bit more applicable to people.
The only thing I would add to any of that is the only part of my summation that I try to be really intentional about beforehand is the last 2 or 3 sentences, because you may have to spend a lot of the summation addressing, cons that were brought up, and it can become like negative or defensive really quickly. And it's always good to end right before the vote with like a strong, positive, summarizing statement that kind of pitches your bill to the chamber one last time before they need to vote or rank. I'll start by saying I think that one thing that this bill does really well is it has a lot of definitions, but if you read the rest of the bill, all of them are necessary. It's important that all of these be defined. They are all used later in the bill, and the definitions that the law uses matter a lot. So this bill's done a really good job of identifying everything in the other sections of the bill that needs defined and providing a long and specific definition for each one of those things.
So I noticed that this bill is very concise in all its sections. So there's not a lot of jargon or very confusing words or wording that could throw off other delegates while reading this bill.
To add on, I'd also like to point out that there's no argument in this bill. The argument is reserved for your debate. The bill is specifically only what you're trying to have become law. I see sometimes in bills in debate, you'll see where some bills have like why this bill should be passed, like in the bill that is being brought up. And that's not something that you want to put in the bill. That should be addressed for your introduction, con-pro debate, and your summation.
One other section I'll highlight really quick is section 9, which sets up a bipartisan review board to analyze the current benefits of the program and the long-term benefits of the extension that the bill itself proposes. It's pretty rare that bills have a super well thought out review mechanism and kind of a method for people reporting on the outcomes embedded within the bill. It's a really strong selling point for this bill, is that there will be a review conducted to see if it's effective, and that will be reported in like the manner outlined here.